Should we start with like a joke of I just flew in and my arms are tired type of thing?
My arms are tired. Oh, oh my God. That's
But we just literally got in back home and we're hopping into it.
when you say literally, though, we landed like 24 hours ago. Took some, what I feel like are cat naps. Like, I'm so worried for the days ahead in our jet lag.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna, what is it, 2 or 3 days it took me to catch up over there.
A week.
Okay,
It took you
so
a week.
It's gonna take me about a week then to readjust.
Ugh. All right, well, should we get into it?
Yeah.
Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after, from Fantasyland to Tatooine and the land of the rising sun in between. That's Japan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And we are
We're
our
back.
arms are tired from flying. We're back. Like we said in the opener, we just got back like 24 hours ago. We haven't fully unpacked yet. I had a dope shirt that I was going to wear to talk about Star Wars Celebration Japan.
No time. We got to get it out, talk about it while it's still fresh in our minds.
Okay, so sidebar on that. We have a lot of friends that have YouTube channels and create content as well. And that's not like a flex. Like, if we can do it, anybody can do it. But there were people that were going back to their rooms and recording and editing all night and doing all of this stuff. And it's like, I am so grateful we don't cover the news like that.
Some of that stuff was coming out. Like, if you missed a panel, it was already out. So
crazy, wild.
I commend them. I commend all of you.
I commend every single one of you, friend or not, took the time to like go back and record and edit and get this stuff out, because we very purposefully, I think, have shaped this podcast to where we have these experiences and we talk about them after the fact, after we've had time to kind of like sit and like let things soak in a little bit, and then talk about our experiences and things that we've learned.
It's a little different take. Because I think that's kind of what we want to talk about in this episode. Is like, yes, we made, I'm looking at my notes. If you're watching, I'm looking at my notes of like what was actually announced. So I think we could talk about that. But again, we could leave that for the other, like the news channels. We're more like, I guess we're the entertainment part of it. But we'll talk about,
we'll do our best.
But kind of talk about what's dropped, maybe what we're excited about.
Yeah.
But then also go into, this was our first international con.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting aspect to think about. And we had like some interesting curveballs thrown at us at this con as well. So it's one of those like, you know what, let's talk about that, because I think that's going to be more of the
and some extra variables that we just don't typically have whenever we go to a convention. Be it if it's international, if we get asked to do things, to help out somewhere, or bringing our kids along, which was a big one. So we'll get into all of that. First, I guess, let's go through the news. So I have a list, and we didn't prepare how we wanted to run through it. I can just read it off pretty quickly, but I think what would be fun is maybe like a percentage of excitement. I'll read it. You give me a percentage of excitement, and I'll tell you if I agree or not.
Okay.
Does that work?
Sure.
Because I'm not going to do like a thumbs up or thumbs down. We're doing this live.
Yeah,
because we're not news, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Okay, film announcements. Star Wars Starfighter. That's the new movie with Ryan Gosling that is scheduled to come out May 2027. Set 5 years after Rise of Skywalker.
I'm kind of excited about it.
Somebody mentioned this that night. Well, give me a percentage. Kind of excited. That's it.
Yeah, kind of excited.
Okay, somebody said, name a bad Ryan Gosling movie. And I was like, oh.
I'm pretty sure there is one, but
he's got a high
number.
High number, though. Next up, we already know this. Mando and Grogu is scheduled for release May 22nd, 2026. So next year.
Yeah. I think that's like 90%.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay, that's an A. All right, now we move on to new animated
What about you?
series.
You're not giving me a number.
Oh, I agree with both of you. Starfighter,
Okay.
remains to be seen, but Ryan Gosling, I think he's great.
I want to, and this is probably on a live that we talk about it, but it's like,
Yeah, we'll go through all
okay,
these in detail.
Okay.
That's not for here, not for now.
Not for now. Okay, got it.
New animated series and seasons. Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord.
100%.
100%.
I'm super excited. Like, it's getting back to the animation and Maul. I'm excited for it.
Agree. Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures renewed for a 3rd season.
The kids, it's more of like we make them watch it, I feel like, because they're a little bit like bigger than it, but it's fun. It's cute.
I love that they're Star Wars for kids.
Exactly,
and it's specifically for them. It's not like Star Wars is for kids, like the movies. This is like literally created like a cartoon for kids, which I love. Star Wars or Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past.
Like a part 2.
That's a part 2.
It was
I'm gonna
okay.
say I'm mid on this one.
Yeah. It was okay, and like we're gonna watch it, but I'm not like kicking down doors.
Agree. Star Wars Visions Volume 3 comes out October 2025.
Like 100 on that one too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because Visions was like, I like the what if.
Yeah.
And then just that them taking these like super cool art styles, Asian inspired, like the anime inspired. It's just so cool to me.
Where I have a problem is like the short stories. I feel like they're so short that they're very forgettable and you can't have too much of an impact on anything. But I do like the art styles and seeing different interpretations of Star Wars.
But I think that's the thing is like there's nothing necessarily canon about it. So it's easy to watch. And if you forget it, you forget it. You go back and watch it and you're like, oh man, yeah, that was super cool.
Okay.
But it's not like I have to do homework. It's like it's truly like so easy to watch, and it's just like visually stunning. Yeah,
like a delicious snack.
Now they are gonna continue that Ronin story, so you're gonna have to do a little bit of homework. But
okay, I'm gonna say I'm like 60% on that one. I think it's the artwork on it is beautiful, but it's not something I go back and like rewatch for the other 2 seasons. Next up, Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. That is a continuation. I think this is the 3rd one, but this is like the bad guys. So it's Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane that they're covering.
I'd say like 80%. Asajj is gonna be really cool because I think that's a character that has like developed, that has developed a whole bunch with Rebels and not Rebels, Bad Batch. Like seeing her like kind of go off and doing her I'm no Jedi type of thing, or I'm no Sith. So it's like it's cool that they're exploring that story.
I like these because it feels like it's giving more screen time to these kind of sub characters that you maybe are curious about, but without having to spend like an entire show on them. Right, like Book of Boba Fett is like an entire show about, kind of 2/3 of a show about Boba Fett. Whereas this is like, okay, here's a little few snack-sized bites of what's happened in the in-between. And I like that. All right, live action updates. These are nothing new. So Ahsoka season 2, they confirmed Hayden Christensen's coming back.
That's 100. Or I'm super excited for that.
I'm really excited for that one. And then Andor season 2 premieres today. Oh, today, as we're recording this. It'll already be out by the time this episode comes out.
It'll be out.
So you guys watching this will know more about Andor than we do in this moment of recording.
Yep.
Because we did not go to the panel.
We missed it.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
We'll talk about that.
Disney Parks update. Millennium. This is not really a huge update, but Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run will get new storylines with Mando and Grogu from the movie on the day that comes out, May 2026.
I am meh on it. However, there is the engineering is going to be like dealing with Grogu or dealing with...
It says you get to interact with Grogu during the mission, and I think you get to like... I think it's more interactive than
you're
before.
You're actually going to be doing something, not just slamming that button.
I love just slamming that. I love sitting back.
You're like, no, go back to just...
And, and the pilots are like, no, left, up. And I'm just like, boop. Boop. I love it so much.
So it's like, I think, depending on the person.
Yeah.
Because you could just sit back there and watch, right?
I may just move to a gunner, and that just I can do
You're
the
just like,
auto aim and just like hold the button the whole time. But yeah,
So that part, I think it's exciting that they're using technology.
Listen, I've fully let go of the whole like time lock
That's
thing. Like,
yeah.
bring it. I would love more things to experience in the parks, so I'm into it. But it sucks, so we have to wait a year for that, but it is what it is. Star Wars Outlaws is going to get a second paid expansion called A Pirate's Fortune featuring Hondo Ohnaka. I think
That'll
that's going to be fun.
I'll play through that.
I'll get to watch you play through it. Yeah. I like that. I liked watching you play that game. I'm not going to cover any collectibles. Yeah, that's it. Psh. All right, Star Wars Celebration. They did announce that the next celebration is going to be in Las Vegas, 2027, April 1st through 4th.
How about the other Los Angeles?
That one. I'm so sorry. We have Mosh
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, dude. Los Angeles.
It's because you got Vegas on the mind.
I do. We have a Mosh Isley in like less than 2 weeks, and so have I started my costume? No. But yes, Los Angeles, April 1st through 4th, 2027. So they're doing the whole every other year. I'm glad it's coming back to the States. What about you?
Yes. It'll make it, I think, so much easier. And I guess that's being selfish because
we missed London.
Because
we're like, whoa, a big international con. That's scary.
We'll wait till it comes back. And then it went even further.
I know.
But yeah, being selfish, like it's great that it's here. But now I understand for like the fans that are across the world, which there are fans across the world, that it's more difficult for them to get over here.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a curious choice that it's Los Angeles and not Anaheim, but there's a new museum opening up.
I think that's probably the big motivation to.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see if people are going to like tack on a Disneyland trip.
I assume so.
With this one. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to it. I think also having it stateside makes it a little easier for us to do things like cosplay and that type of stuff. So that said, let's jump into
the actual beginning of this conversation.
The con. So what were your initial impressions with Star Wars Celebration Japan?
My prior experiences have been Orlando and Anaheim, and now Japan.
Right.
This has been the smallest celebration that I've attended because there is basically three halls, right, where they're having panels.
I think it was 4.
Well, there's more, but basically those are the big ones.
Yeah.
The Galaxy, the Twin Suns, and then the celebration.
The stages.
Just the big stages.
Right.
Where there's things that are being announced.
Yeah.
So there's only the 3. And then there's the showroom floor, which is, I mean, it was two sections, but it was like fairly small.
It was really small. So, and what was weird is that there was like this Japanese businessman like convention that was taking place. Like they didn't rent out the entire facility.
Yeah.
Which was strange to me. But yeah, it was really small. But I felt that this one had the most uniqueness to it because there was very much an infusion of Japanese culture across everything you experienced there, which was so cool.
That was super cool. That was super cool to see because, you know, again, I didn't attend London, but I'm assuming there would be more. It would feel the same. Like there wouldn't be any cultural differences from the States.
Yeah.
Whereas like Japan, like there was so much like Japanese influence, Asian influence, and a lot of the either cosplays and the pop-ups and stuff like that, activations. Like it was all like, you know, Japanese inspired, right? Or Japanese like fusion with Star Wars. Yeah. So that was like super cool.
That was the big thing I noticed was the costuming. So cosplaying in general was just down. And I think that was because like a lot of people are having to travel from the States. And so space is limited in your suitcase. They tell you to like travel light because you have to, if you're traveling between hotels, like you have to use the subway and you have to use all these things. So I know for us specifically, we didn't plan any cosplays because we're like, we're not messing with that. We're not taking up suitcase space. And then also which
I think was a missed opportunity. We should have done the Andor thing.
We should have.
Because like we have the Narkina jumpsuits and they could have let us go over there and watch it. But But the thing that made it difficult, and we'll talk. We have more like it's a hurdle, right? We did bring our kids,
Right.
so, and not that they're a hurdle, but
They're a variable.
it's a variable. There you go.
Variable.
I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to take up space in the suitcase for something I was only going to wear once. And if you have to have like special shoes or armor or props or any of these other things. And then also Japanese culture is you're not supposed to be traveling in cosplay publicly, like walking around publicly with it. Like in the convention space was fine. And I didn't realize that where we were staying there was like a skywalk that could take us there. So we weren't really ever actually outside. But anyway,
And I think
it was a lot of confusion.
Well, I think it's just uncertainty. I think there wasn't any like enforcement of like you're dressed up type, or I didn't see any like you got to take that off type of thing.
Apparently, if you use the cosplay changing stations, there was.
Okay.
There were like stricter rules. So if you got ready in the cosplay changing station, there were a lot stricter rules of what you could and couldn't do versus if you had just like come into the con from your room.
Because basically they didn't catch you.
Because they can't catch you, or they didn't catch you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was surprising. And then also like days 1 and 2 of the con, there was not hardly anybody dressed up. There were very few cosplays, and the cosplays were very light. And then by Sunday, most of the big like panels and everything were over, and that's when you saw all the cosplays come out. So it was different. Most of the time when you go to these cons, you're like, at least for me, I love looking at the costumes that people put together and the thought and the effort and the love that they put into it and the detail. Because oh my God, some of these costumes are incredible, and we didn't get to really experience that till the last day.
And I think Celebration compared to other cons that we've gone to, that's the coolest thing about Celebration. Like, one, it's Star Wars, but there's either the 501st level of costumes, but there's typically the equal amount of Star Wars infused with other
like mashups. Yeah.
And so that's the fun thing, is like you get double the costumes because you get the super accurates, but also the everybody else trying to do something, some like twist to it. Fun. Whereas like a con ends up being like just every kind of property. Whereas this is like more.
It's very like you can be more niche.
You can be more niche with it
and more nuanced, and like I mean that's why Betty Bantha came to life. Was Celebration Anaheim. It was always like, oh, this is a weird thing, and like Star Wars people will get it. And then I brought her to like other cons, and like nobody knew.
Yeah,
I didn't even think to bring her to this one, but also we were trying to pack like as light as possible. So, but we did see some cool. It didn't. But it was cool. So let's talk about. I think the biggest thing is managing expectations at a con. And this goes for probably everything that we ever discuss. Any experiences that we have is going into a convention, there's things that you want to do. And you probably want to do a lot of things. And given that everything just takes a lot longer, or there's just scheduling conflicts, or whatever it may be, whatever variables you carry with you, you're not going to be able to do all of those things. And that's rough. And so I feel like a lot of lessons are learned day 1 of the con where you're like, oh, I can't do that again.
Okay. So what would you say, what was your main expectation from the con, like from Celebration? Like this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to get. This is what whatever.
So I'm not a shopper at cons, so I don't go around saying like, oh, I have to get this, or I need the latest Hot Toys or Lego or any of these things. I love picking up art at conventions, but that wasn't. I've been to enough conventions now that the main thing for me is getting to hang out with my friends.
Can I interject and say this is what I think what your expectation is?
Tell me.
Was to plan the most efficient or most like packed celebration, because like you were getting us into panels, into the lightning, the shop, and like getting all those things, and you're like, well, do you want to do this? I'm like, sure, if you could get the tickets. And so you did everything you can to get spots and everything. So
I did, but
so all your expectations were taken care of before.
Well, okay, here's the thing. When you do the panels and like the lightning lanes, you don't really get to pick. Like the panels are when the panels are. And so if you get in, great. And if you don't, okay, right? Like I can't plan that.
Yeah.
The lightning lane, I think you could have picked, but they were going so fast that I was just like, go, and I got you a spot, and then my turn came up and I got me a spot. But those were the only things we did. Like I don't need to go to all the panels. I don't need to do all the shopping. We just like to shop and like walk around and see what there is, and then just like hang out with people along the way. And that's what we ultimately ended up doing, was just hanging out with people most of the time.
Yeah. So from my end,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily, like, I guess I've grown accustomed to not being able to attend the panels because one, most of the time we're running around doing things, so I won't be able to get out there early enough to wait and stand by. And up until this trip, typically wouldn't get any kind of ticket to the panels.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I think was a little bit easier because there was more. We were able to, right? There's just more space,
Right?
There were not
Or
that
we
many
just
people.
got lucky.
You just
that
got
we
lucky.
It, yeah. You
So,
got lucky.
Yeah, I was able to get a ticket, but not necessarily go to it.
Right.
We'll talk about that.
Yep.
But as far as like merch, I always keep an eye on like what's the big thing, and it'd be cool. Like I kind of just like put it out there, like, okay, just manifest it. It'd be cool if I could get it, but I'm not like dying to have it.
Yeah.
But I'm always keeping an eye on the big thing. And this year was that Hot Toys, that's Stormtrooper, which huge shout out to our patron Chad.
Yeah.
Was able to snag one for me, and so it's just like I was jumping for joy the entire day. I was like, man, I got what I was like wanting. It was perfect. So I'll probably end up posting about it, like me opening up, whatever.
Yeah. Are you gonna open it?
Yeah, I think maybe we put it like out here.
That would be fun. Yeah.
But again, it was cool because it's like it shows where it was celebration. It's got the cherry blossoms, and it like just kind of all these like the smash up of the things that we experienced.
Right.
But doing that, and then like you said, hanging out with friends, like that's kind of ends up being the big thing.
Right.
But I think we quickly realized, because of the panel, that you have to pick what you want, because first day it's like all shopping. So if you want to attend panels, you're not getting any shopping done.
Right.
You're not getting
if you want the exclusives for the con, those go quickly. And sometimes they'll do it where they release certain amount each day, and then some have, like Roosevelt's, for example, has Friday exclusives and Saturday exclusives. And so if you're wanting either day or both, you have to line up for those early. The con floor opens like an hour before the main panel of the day. So if you're wanting to do the panel, you can't, because you have to line up for the, you have to line up for the panel.
You have to pick. You have to choose panel or merch.
Yeah. And then celebration store, like all of that stuff. I think they would restock it
every
day, but
it
was like,
that was pretty much our day. It would be waiting for Hot Toys in the morning.
Yeah.
We got there. We didn't get there as soon as it opened. I think we got there around 10.
Well, I got there because I was.
Oh, you got there, yeah, because you were helping at the booth.
Yeah.
But you were helping at the booth, so you're not doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing something, not anything towards getting you a hot toy.
But waiting, and then it was pretty much I had to go straight into the Star Wars store. I mean, the Star Wars celebration store.
Yeah.
And then that's a wait. So even though I had like the lightning lane to go in, you have to like wait in line to get a sweater, get a shirt, get in line to pay, unless you're a VIP Jedi, whatever.
Right, or disability. In.
Well, but even then, there was the disability had a line. Like it was just a separate line. And again, it's no fault of anybody. It's just everybody goes shopping to get the stuff before, and you don't know when things are going to sell out.
Yeah.
So if you're eyeing something, you kind of like, I have to do it now.
Honestly, should we just title this episode and whole conversation? Like, should we reframe it as like the lines you'll sit in at celebration? Because like checking into the hotel, we heard like stories that the people were standing in line for 2 hours just to check into the hotel. Well, by the time we got there, it took an hour, and because our expectations were like,
as long as we have a room.
That's as long
as we have a room.
Was when
we got there. It was like, as long as we get a room,
we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we had a room. It was fine. But that was a wait. You standing in line to check out for the Celebration store. So you had a lightning lane for Celebration, and it was basically every man for themselves for the store. You had a lightning lane for that, but you couldn't like say, hey, I'm traveling with these people, so let's get a reservation at the same time. Mine was like 3 hours later. By the time you went in, we split. We had met up because I had been helping the Roosevelt's booth. We'll get into that. But we had met up. You go to the Celebration store. I was like, we have to feed the kids. People are telling us that the food hall that they had was nuts and that the line was like 2 hours long. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that. One of our friends was like, hey, there's actually a food truck court outside and there's like no lines out there. So we go out there and our kids are picky. So we're trying to find stuff to do. And there's like beef tongue skewers and like all these weird things. I was like, oh my God, please help me just find something that like me and the kids will eat because we were picky. And we found this other place that had like beef and noodles or whatever. We stood in line over an hour for that. So the whole time that you're in the store trying to shop and check out, we're in line outside. And it was not, the weather was not as nice and chilly as it had been at Disney before. But that took like our entire afternoon was you shopping for the stuff and like texting like, hey, there's this, hey, there's that.
And that's the thing. So I'm texting because I'm like, all right, I'm in here. Like, let's, if any, hey, do they need anything? Do they need anything? Because like, I'm going to grab it now if it's available.
Yeah.
It's because I'm not going to sit in this again.
No. And so, yeah, by the time you were done with that, we were done getting food. And so we all congregated. And that was pretty much day one.
Yeah.
I don't think we did anything because I went back to the room.
Then it shuts down at 6.
6, I think. Yeah. So I went back to the room to like drop off all of the stuff. And by the time I came back, it was like, all right, you want to do one last lap around and see what there is to see? Because I hadn't really explored the con at that point. So it was a lot.
And neither had I.
It was a lot of waiting in lines that first day. And I think we quickly shifted what our plan was for the next 2 days after that. And I think a lot of people did. And I'm so mad at myself too, because I know not to eat the food at the cons. The lines are legendary at any convention you go to. If you're going to eat anywhere near there.
But this one, they had like themed items. So that's why I think everybody was going.
Yeah. And they had good stuff. And it seemed like the food was more abundant. It seemed like there was a lot more food options than there were people. Typically, like when you go to a normal con and there's just like 3 little
popcorns and
where they're like the
Chick-fil-A
baseball vendor like things that like the garage door rolls up and they have like burgers and hot dogs. There was like probably 10 food trucks, and then there was a food hall, and then there were places in the convention center as well. So it seemed like there were more options. We've got kids; they're hungry. Anyway, here's my tip: never eat food at a con. Take the 10 minutes it takes to walk away from the con and go eat somewhere, because I guarantee you'll not have to wait that long. Yeah. It'll be so much shorter. But yeah, so let's talk about what we learned and like working the Roosevelt's booth, and then day 2.
Basically, okay, we kind of keep mentioning like work the Roosevelt's booth. So Roosevelt's ended up going out there and having a booth, which was, again, it's like a proud moment, like being able to associate with them and them being like the sponsors for like day one, and just like just how huge it is, and
like
just
they were on the like official lanyard.
Yeah, and the lines being like super, like I know it's crazy if you're working it, but it's super cool to see like your friend's booth being slam packed.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like, cool, but I know it's probably stressful.
Right.
So they had pretty much a skeleton crew, but they knew that they were going to have big crowds. So they reached out and said, hey, would you be willing to come help out? And we're like, absolutely. What do you need? Yeah. And so we manned the lines. You manned the lines on
Friday.
One day or Friday. And then I did it on Saturday.
Yeah.
But then that meant you were working a booth. I was
on kid duty.
And so they were taking their time getting up, and that's why we didn't get out there till 10.
Golly, man, they take their time.
Yeah.
They take after me.
Yeah. But so we walked around for a little bit, just to kind of give you kind of what our day was. We got in, we walked around a little bit, and we had friends that had kids, and they met at the kids club. So we're like, all right, let me go sit over there and let them do that.
Yeah.
Which the full con is not really meant for kids per se. They have like they had the Lego booth. They have like booths that they could enjoy
In
things.
general, it's not
But
meant. The convention's not meant for kids.
So it's really nice that they have this area specific for kids.
Yeah. And it was a pretty big area because they had like a little corner with furniture, like couches and stuff set up for reading. And they had a bunch of Star Wars kids books out there. They had puzzles. They had tables so parents could sit down and you could color. They had Lego tables set up. They had a screen playing like little Star Wars shorts.
They had Nubs come out every once in a while.
Nubs doing like a character meet and greet a couple times a day. So they had a lot going on in there. Like it was really, really well done. And I liked that it was basically like it was at the back, but it was on the con floor, because other times I think when we did Orlando, the kids section was like upstairs
way.
And like we didn't find it till the last day. We're like, well, wish we'd known about this like 3 days ago. That would have been really nice. So it was cool because we ended up just parking there for most of our convention days.
Or a good portion of each day.
Yeah. So we did that. So I guess let's move on to talking about bringing your kids. Unless you want to talk about Roosevelt's anymore.
No, we talk about the kids.
I mean, that's boring. We just worked the lines. You did a better job than I did. You made executive decisions, and I did not feel empowered to make those decisions. So you took matters into your own hands. And said, I'm calling the shots.
I did not. I learned from your mistakes, but we also had the chain. That I think that was a big.
You had a longer line, and we did not have those.
Well, I think it's like having physical barriers is easy to be able to like, okay, these are our parameters now.
Yeah.
It doesn't go off the rails.
But kudos to the whole Roosevelt team, because those guys and the lady that was working, they did not eat, they did not take breaks, nothing.
Yeah, hats off.
I was like, oh man, this is y'all are crazy. But they did a great job, and we're, like you said, we're just so proud to see them thrive at conventions like this, because it was really cool. And they came up with great stuff, like the shirt you're wearing, the bamboo kind of Zen. I think it was called Zen Moment. I don't remember exactly. I was just working the line, okay?
Well, it was funny because like I was at the end and people were like, is this one in stock? I'm like, at the beginning of the day it was, but now it's been 2 hours and all the people going through. So I don't know. Like, they don't, this one's out, this one's out. This size
they don't
is out.
yell that out. And then all they do is just like cross it out or put like a sold out thing once with all the inventory, all the sizes are sold out. Yeah. I would get questions like that. And they're like, well, do you know if this is going to be, I'm like, I'm working the line. Yeah. I was like, I don't even work. My joke was, I don't even work here.
Well, but the thing too is like one person was kind of like asked me, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, should I go ask? I was like, I could say, yep, they have a medium, here, but it's going to be 2 hours before you get to that line. Mm-hmm. And who knows if it gets bought out by the time.
Yeah. That's what I felt bad too. I'm like, 4, 5, 6, I'm giving you information now, but when you come back to buy it, like, I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea. So yeah, it was.
Again, it's a difficult.
It was fun though.
People are buying all that stuff up.
I like feeling useful, and so it was really nice to feel useful. But yeah, so we did that. But let's talk about managing or bringing our kids to the convention, because we typically don't. If the only we do.
We typically haven't. I think that's because we have, because we took Orlando.
Here's the difference: Orlando was like
Anaheim.
We didn't. We did not bring the kids. That was the first Mosh Isley.
Oh, okay.
So typically when we're going, ever since Anaheim, whenever we have a convention that we're going to, we're typically throwing a mosh. And so we do not bring our kids on those trips because we're having to work the whole time. If it's a local convention, or if it's something that we're not doing like a mosh, or we're not having to work in any capacity, we'll bring our kids along. But then the intention of the trip is a little bit different, right? We're more family focused anyway. With Star Wars Celebration, that's a little different animal, if you will, because most of those people that are there know us for the work that we do. Like the people that we run into or that we're hanging out with know us for the work that we do. And so they're like, hey, let's hang out and talk for like 15, 20 minutes. And typically if it's just you and me, we're like, yeah, absolutely. But when we have our kids there, and they're just like, well,
yeah, we got daughter hanging off me like I'm a jungle gym, stuff like that. It makes it pretty difficult.
Yeah. So that put it was an interesting variable.
But I think that's the thing, is like, it's not bad for the kids, because they had the kids area.
Yeah.
We had friends that had kids, so it was like not weird. There's nothing, you know, it's the
No.
same thing getting into panels. Like, it's not difficult. They don't make any like, well, you got to pass, but not the kid, so you can't, like, it typically lets you and the kid go in.
Right.
So I think it's more of us, the type of work that we do, it makes it more of a hurdle.
Yeah. And I felt bad because I felt like with the rest of the trip, we were, like I said, we were more family focused and we were able to focus more time on the kids. At Celebration or any kind of Star Wars event, we're having to, like, we can't.
Star Wars takes the priority.
Star Wars takes the priority, and I feel bad. Because the other thing too, like, there's stuff for them, but not really.
I mean, but the thing too is, like, people bringing swag, they'll bring swag, but then they'll, like, that's the cool thing is they'll bring kid swag.
Yeah,
like,
that was
specifically for, because there's like, our son got a whole bunch of cool things, and I'm like, dude, that's really cool, like patches and stuff, pins.
Yeah.
So like people will bring specific things for kids and not for adults. So it's like a good way to get. And even like our daughter's badge, like not too many kids got the 6 and under badge.
Yeah, and it was Young Jedi Adventures themed. Ooh, that one was
so
cute.
Like they get special, they get a little bit of special treatment. So
right, but like when we went to Anaheim, we did go to a couple of panels, and with this one, you had a Andor panel, but you ended up working the Roosevelt's booth that morning, and like you could have gotten the kids into it, or I could have taken them and switched off. But at the same time, it was like, do the kids really want to go sit through this panel for for an hour plus, or should we just go take them to the kids section where we know that they can at least be stimulated and not be on screens?
Yeah.
Right, and not just be sitting there bored out of their mind. But then also, like, the hotel that everybody's staying, not everybody, most people are staying at the main hotel, and so every night there was hangs in the lobby. And so you're going to the con all day. That starts at like 9 a.m. And then you go and you eat dinner somewhere. Sometimes you eat with friends. Sometimes you eat on your own. And then it was just kind of like unspoken that everybody just hung out in the lobby until.
Which is no different, I think, than every other con that we've gone to. That's typically what happens.
Right.
Just like where most of the people are staying, the lobby is where the party's at.
But typically, when we're bringing our kids to cons, they're the local cons. And so we're not staying after hours. We're not staying at a hotel where we need to stay, like, hang out.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. I felt like.
Well, yeah, just having them.
Like, hey, go sit down.
Then we would let them rot and, like, all right, you can have a device. Like, just be chill.
Like, please just be chill. Please. I'm so tired. But I mean, it's a lot to expect from anybody to go to a con.
I mean, but they
long.
did great. Like,
our kids are like, I have so much respect for these kids. They were so good the entire trip. And so to end like a 2-week plus trip with this convention and for them to still be so good, because I don't think I was that well behaved by that point of the trip. I was like, feral was the word I kept using.
Yeah,
everything was stressing me out. But yeah, our kids were incredible. So like we say, oh, they were variable. They were, something we had to work around. They were really good. They're great kids. It's just that it's different than how we typically do conventions. So I think that's something to note is if you are going to bring your kids along, you're not going to be able to do all of the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and again, I think it's very much because we had friends that had kids where like one of the parent would go do like, again, it's like a divide and conquer type of thing. Yeah. So it's like one's going to, take on the responsibility and the other one's going to, I got to go do this. And that's pretty much what we did. Right.
Yeah.
So but I think that's the thing is like being aware that it's not going to be, hand in hand. We're going to be looking at, because we ended up doing that pretty much Sunday.
Yeah.
Once all the panels were done, or the big panels, we just like walked the floor to see if there was anything else.
We were split Friday and Saturday because one of us was working the booth and one was on kids duty. And so by the time Sunday came around, it was like, hey, we get to do this con together. Like, this is pretty fun. But yeah,
but then that too is like, if there is anything you wanted to buy, it's been picked over. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, just something to consider.
Again, I got what I was kind of eyeing. So I was happy. I was like, I didn't really need, it was more of just like that last minute, like, ooh, I should get that type of thing. But
you and I, we used to go into cons with a plan where it's like we start at one end and we go up and down all the way through.
We did that though. It wasn't a big con. It wasn't
a very small con. So yeah, it's tough. Well, I think it'll continue the way that it's continuing, where is if we're going to an event and we have to work it in some capacity, whether it's mosh or a podcast or something, we probably won't bring our kids.
But even
along.
then, like if for like MegaCon, like I'm just going back to that because we're basically working for mosh. We would only be able to spend one day at the con.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it we're prepping for a mosh.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine if we were trying to plan a mosh for Japan, which now I think it would be.
It would have crushed.
It would have. Yeah, it would have absolutely crushed.
Because there was Friday night. Everybody's like, "What are you gonna do?" I don't know. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Somebody do something.
Yeah, definitely could have crushed. I think again the biggest hurdle would be just trying to find a place.
Yeah.
But meeting people over there, like, okay, now at least we have connections for the next time. But
when we're 60 and still
you would only we would only be able to go one of the days.
Yeah.
And then it'd be the next day planning for the party, and then the next day is like whatever we gotta.
That's like the boring stuff that like, nobody needs to know about for mosh. Yeah.
The admin stuff of it.
Yeah.
So it's like you wouldn't be able to do the con.
Right.
So.
No, I hear you. I think the way we did it was great. We got to take the kids to Japan and like open up their world.
And I think that's so. We're definitely going to be talking about like this whole trip, but we're just trying to take like small bites at it because I think there's like we did a lot. We did a lot during this time, and
I feel like I've lived 20 years in the last 2 weeks. That we did so much, and we'll get into all of it in future episodes. I don't know if we may try to push out more episodes because we were gone for so long. Maybe we'll just do like more. Maybe we'll do like weekly live streams. I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna handle it because we also have more travel coming up. But we wanted to talk specifically about Star Wars Celebration just because that one is so fresh. And then we may back up from there. And I guess let us know. Do you want us to talk about Tokyo Disney first, or do you want us to talk about the rest of Japan? Because we have lots of thoughts on all of it. Like all of it was so culturally different from the way that we do things. And some of the things were good and some of the things were very weird. Like the popcorn situation in a Tokyo theme park. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? But yeah, let us know what it is that you want us to talk about next, whether it's Tokyo Disney or just Tokyo and traveling Japan in general, because we were sharing travel tips along the way. And even some of those things we had to kind of adapt and pivot away from, like buying luggage. Oh my God. We should have just.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap. I'll give you that. It's not cheap. But we could talk about it more.
We'll talk about it more. If you were going to be in the Las Vegas area, not Los Angeles, like I mixed it up at the beginning, but if you're going to be in Las Vegas for May the 4th, we will be throwing a Mosh Isley there at House of Blues. I'm very excited. How's your costume coming along?
It's almost done.
In your heart.
In my heart.
In your heart. I just placed my first
Hey, I just got back
order
from Japan. Give me some slack.
I placed my first Amazon order this morning. I have a week left of panicking to do.
We were talking about this. That it reinvigorated my costume creativity, or like the idea, because like there was just so many great like cosplays,
gorgeous cosplays. Oh my gosh, they were so good. Yeah, we need to get back on it.
Yeah,
not for Mosh Vegas, we only have a week for that, but future ones we're gonna be ready. But thank you so much for hanging out with us for this episode, and we will catch you next time.